Warning, this podcast contains themes of extreme violence and murder. Subject matter may be offensive to some listeners. Discretion advised.
Welcome to another episode of Evil Transgression, your homicide headquarters here in podcasting. I'm Josh, and with me as always, Dustin and Rex.
Hey, what's up? What's going on?
We have another Patreon sponsorship today.
For
this episode.
Let us hear it.
Kiona.
Oh, thank you, Kiona.
Thank you.
I love her name.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty awesome name.
Yeah, it is.
Kiona.
Is that Hawaiian?
We can pretend it is.
Okay.
But I just picture like her being my best friend in real life and me calling her Kiki.
Oh, I can see that.
Like that song.
Which one?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. I'm not singing it.
I want to hear you sing
I'm
it.
not singing
totally.
it. We'll just
I'm
act
lost.
like I didn't say it.
We're not going to do that.
Okay.
Well, you don't say much of anything anyway, so.
Ooh.
Okay.
We're throwing haymakers today.
Yeah.
What song?
I'm not saying
This
it.
is the Kiki song.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody else knows what it is.
They probably don't.
Except for me and Rick.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody will tell you.
You're outvoted 2-1.
I'll bet you somebody tells you what song I'm talking about.
Okay. We will see.
Okay.
I'd rather you sing it, though.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
I hope you guys brought your number 2 pencils to class today. That was a dad joke. It was a dad joke because today we're going to travel to the National Pencil Company.
Really?
For a crime.
Good
Sounds
deal.
interesting.
So that was my dad joke.
I liked it.
I hope you brought your number 2.
You should keep that one to yourself.
Oh, man.
All right, this is how the episode's going to go.
That's going to be rough.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, everybody ready?
Yes.
You
Let's
ready?
do it.
All right. Let's do it. Buckle up, Evil Mob, as we discuss Leo Max Frank. Leo Max Frank was born on April 17th, 1884, in Cuero, Texas, to Rudolph Frank and Rachel Jacobs. His Jewish-American family moved to Brooklyn, New York, in 1884 when Leo was only 3 months old. Leo was a good student growing up, attending public schools in New York. He would attend Pratt Institute, where he would graduate in 1902 before then attending Cornell University, where he studied mechanical engineering. Leo graduated from Cornell in 1906 and worked as a draftsman and a testing engineer. So Leo is no dummy. He's a well-educated man that we're dealing with.
Ivy League.
You what?
Ivy League
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah. In October of 1907, Leo went to Atlanta, Georgia for 2 weeks, where his uncle Moses Frank was a major shareholder with the National Pencil Company. Leo was offered a position with the factory, and the company sent him to Eberhard Faber Pencil Factory in Germany to study the work there.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Like, hey, you're gonna study how pencils are made.
It can't be that hard, right?
Well, can you get lead inside a piece of wood?
I mean,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
A good point.
yeah, stop.
He's on fire today.
Stop with
Yeah,
those.
he is.
Leo Frank stayed in Germany for 9 months as an apprentice before returning to the United States. Leo Frank officially started work at the National Pencil Company in August of 1908, and after only 1 month, he became the superintendent of the factory.
Dang.
I mean, it's
pretty good.
Yeah, but he's a really smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got a Cornell education. He should have a good job. I don't know what it'll get you nowadays, but
Do they even have
Still.
pencil factories anymore?
well, of course. Where
yeah.
do you think they grow off trees? They just go out and pluck them
if
off?
you think
They
about
farm
it
them?
though, like Bic, they make pencils. They also make lighters. They also make, I don't know what else they make.
But Bic makes mechanical pencils.
Yes.
I don't know if I've ever seen an all wood Bic pencil.
Yeah, I don't know. I always use mechanicals, so.
They're convenient.
Oh,
But there's nothing like a good wood pencil, a good old fashioned number 2 wood pencil that doesn't bend like, you know, some of those cheap ones. You'll try and grip
you
them.
put
and
them
they-
in your fingers and crack them.
Yeah. But a good wood pencil that's sharp. Oh, man,
Hey, you know
there's
what's
nothing
crazy?
like it.
When I bought my house downstairs in the basement, there's an old school pencil sharpener. down
Ooh,
there.
nice.
Awesome.
I use it all the time.
I saw a meme the other day that showed a pencil sharpener that was open with the shavings coming out, and it was like, when you got to empty it in elementary school, you always thought you was the boss.
They said that's how you went up and flexed your new outfit.
Yeah.
Just went up to the pencil
Went up to
sharpener.
the pencil sharpener. Got to sharpen my pencil. It'd be sharp already. By the end of the day, your pencil was like to the eraser.
Oh, man.
So Leo Frank is now the superintendent of the National Pencil Company. This meant he was a big shot, you know, clearly. But he received $180 a month plus a share of the monthly profits of the factory.
Not
Wow.
bad.
Keep in mind, we're talking 1908. $180 a month plus a share of the profits.
Yeah,
It's probably good money.
right.
It's got to be like $400,000 a year today.
It might be.
It might be.
In November of 1910, Leo Frank married a fellow Jewish woman named Lucille Selig. Lucille's family was a well-known Jewish family in Atlanta, having founded the first synagogue in Atlanta. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It is.
Now, keep in mind, we're talking about Atlanta, Georgia, though. The Jewish were not really down south.
Right.
Yeah, it was rare.
In 1912, Leo Frank was elected president of a local chapter of a well-known Jewish fraternal organization. So, I mean, he's the real deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
A well-educated man of faith. Now, hold that thought on Leo for a minute. Mary Fagan was born on June 1st, 1899. Her father had died before she was born. Mary's mother, Frances Fagan, moved the family around Georgia a few times before finally settling in East Point, Georgia. Frances Fagan opened a boarding house there. Now, Mary Fagan was the daughter of a farmer. In fact, a family of farmers, so she wasn't unfamiliar with hard work. In fact, Mary left school at 10 years old to work part-time in a textile mill.
Dang.
Wow.
We're talking early 1900s. That wasn't an uncommon thing for
Right.
them to use basically child labor.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
In 1912, Mary's mother Frances married John William Coleman, and the family moved to Atlanta. Mary Fagan then took a job with none other than the National Pencil Company. Mary was paid, get this, 10 cents an hour running the machine that put erasers on the top of pencils.
10 cents an hour.
10 cents an hour. She worked 55 hours a week
Dang.
Dang.
hustling.
That's pretty
Hustling.
good.
I mean, she's a youngin' working
Right.
55 hours
Yeah.
a week. I work 41, and I'm like, God, a 1 hour overtime would like to kill me.
Exhausted, yeah.
She worked in a department across the hallway from Mr. Leo Frank's office. On April 21st, 1913, Mary Fagan was laid off from her position at the company due to a shortage of brass sheet metal. 5 days later, around noon on April 26, 1913, Mary Fagan went to the factory for her last pay of $1.20. She would never leave the factory. At 3 a.m., a factory night watchman named Newt Lee went to the basement of the factory to use the bathroom. After he did his business, he found Mary Fagan's body near an incinerator in the basement. Mary's dress was up around her waist, a strip of cloth from her coat was wrapped around her throat, and she had been beaten badly. She was covered with dirt and ash from the floor of the basement. A 7-foot piece of cord was tied around her neck where it was buried into her neck. Like this cord was tied so tight it was like a 1/4 inch into the skin of her neck.
Dang.
She had been strangled to death. Her underwear had been torn open and left bloody. Police were called and upon investigation found a sliding door not far from where Mary was found had been pried open. Bloody fingerprints were on the door. Officers also found a metal bar that they believed had been used as a crowbar to open the sliding door in the basement. A trail in the dirt and ash of the basement from the elevator shaft to where Fagan was probably had crucial evidence of footprints, but it was trampled by the investigators.
Now, was this factory, like, were they working at this time?
He found her.
I'm saying, was it open? Were people in there working?
Sure. I mean, it's not a vacant factory. I don't think they were working at
No,
this
I didn't know if
time.
they were off or whatever. But I was going to say nobody heard this.
Yeah, this is a night watchman, so I'm sure
Yeah.
no one's there when her body's found.
Okay.
But so we've got this trail from the elevator to where she's at that had footprints in it, but investigators walk all over it. So there goes your footprint evidence. 2 notes were found beside Mary Fagan. Both notes, which were poorly written with horrible spelling, put the blame on a tall black man and were written in third person as if Mary had written them while dying. Newt Lee was the black man. Remember, Newt Lee was the watchman who found her. Now these, you can go online and read these notes if you want. They were just so poorly written, I didn't feel like putting them in here and trying to read them because I know how Dustin is if I try and read something the way it's written.
We got to kick them out. Yeah.
But I mean, it's horrible. This girl clearly didn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. She only went to school till she was 10, but it was pretty bad. So both the police and Newt Lee tried to call Leo Frank to make him aware of what was going on in the factory, but Leo didn't answer either call. Leo was arrested that morning because of the notes and the fact that he had told the officers the body was of a white girl. Let me explain. Because the basement was dirty and ashy, and because it was dark when the officers first laid eyes on Mary Fagan's body, they initially believed that she was a black girl. And he knew that she was a white girl. That was their suspicion of Newt Lee, the watchman. They also believed that the trail from the elevator shaft was from where Lee had moved the girl to the basement. Police also arrested another man who was one of Mary Fagan's friends. After more investigation, the police began to believe that neither men were the murderer. On Monday, April 28, 1913, a closer sweep of the factory produced more evidence of the crime, or so they thought. A lathe that had hair on it and blood found on the floor in the second floor of the factory where Mary had worked was that evidence. That was also across from Leo Frank's office. Leo was called again by the police, and he finally answered the phone. He met with detectives that morning and claimed the name Mary Fagan didn't ring a bell, and he would have to check his payroll book. Leo Frank appeared nervous, pale, and very fidgety during the interrogation. Police took him through the building, showed him the crime scene, and then to the morgue to see the body. Frank, with the help of his attorney, provided a written statement to the police detailing his whereabouts of the day of the crime, where he actually admitted that Fagan had been in his office. So things aren't really looking good for Leo Frank.
Not at all.
But Frank was, at that time, not considered a suspect and let go. So he hired a private investigator agency called the Pinkertons to help clear his name. A search of Leo Frank's home produced no evidence of a crime being committed by him, but a search of Newt Lee's home did. A bloody shirt was found at the bottom of a burn barrel. This is where it gets weird because the private investigators hired believed the shirt hadn't been worn and that the shirt was actually a plant to frame Newt Lee. So the focus was again on Leo Frank, who the police believe planted the evidence to frame him.
So they think Leo did the killing, planted the shirt at his house.
Well, they believe basically that Leo Frank killed her, and he may have had Newt Lee help him. But he's going to pin it all on Newt Lee. But you'll learn a lot more here. Leo Frank was arrested based on the only evidence of him being nervous during his interrogation, and that he was supposedly the last person to see Mary Fagan alive. Police also arrested Newt Lee because they believed that Lee was an accomplice. Months of investigation brought forth a new suspect, Jim Conley. Jim Conley was actually the janitor at the factory and was arrested on May 1st, 1913, when he was spotted washing what looked like blood out of one of his uniform shirts. Upon inspection, police ruled that it was actually rust and not blood, but they kept Conley in custody. 2 weeks later, Conley gave his first statement to police where he told them he had spent the day of the murder drinking in saloons and shooting dice. Saloons. I feel like he's in the Wild West.
Right.
That turned out to be a lie because a witness had spotted Conley in the lobby of the factory the day of the murder. On top of that, unlike the illiterate Newt Lee, Jim Conley could read and write. Investigators found similarities in his terrible spelling and the spelling in the notes found at the crime. On May 24th, 1913, Conley admitted to police he had written the notes, stating that Leo Frank had called him into his office that day before the murder and told him to write them. Police found this odd that Leo Frank would basically confess to a murder, so they questioned Conley more about it until he admitted that he had lied about his meeting with Frank that day, but doubled down on Leo Frank by saying he had seen Leo on the street the day of the murder and was told to follow him to the factory, where Leo told him to hide in a closet to avoid being seen by two women who had stopped to visit Frank in his office. That whole story sounds crazy as hell to me. Conley claimed that Leo Frank then told him to write the notes, gave him a few cigarettes, and then told him to leave. So I want you to hide in my closet, because I got some ladies coming up to the office. I need you to write these 2 notes, and I'll give you 2 smokes. Conley is a pretty strange fella here.
Oh, yeah.
Jim Conley claimed he left the factory, went out drinking, and to see a movie, but didn't find out about the murder until he came back to work that Monday. Sounds like a lot of baloney to me.
Oh, yeah.
But the police bought it, and after news of it hit the papers, 3 employees of the pencil company came forward saying it was more than likely Conley that had followed an employee into the factory with the intentions of robbing her, but spotted Fagan instead and decided she was an easier target. Police didn't fall for it, even though the purse that Fagan was known to carry was not found at the crime scene. So it does kind of make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
But then again, it's just 3 people saying, "No, it's probably that dude. This is what he did." So, I mean, it is a mess. This whole investigation is a mess.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible.
On May 23rd, 1913, a grand jury convened to hear evidence against Leo Frank. The following day, on May 24th, 1913, Leo Frank was indicted. Frank's legal team pointed the finger at Jim Conley, saying he was surely the real killer, which put pressure on the grand jury to indict Jim Conley. They did not. On May 29th, 1913, Jim Conley changed his story once again, stating Leo Frank had told him he had picked up a girl and let her fall and that she had hit her head. Conley claimed that he helped Frank take the body to the basement by the elevator and then went back to Leo Frank's office, where he was told to write the notes. Conley then said Leo promised him $200 that he would pay him if he got away with the crime.
That sounds made up.
Keep in mind, Conley's changed his stories, 3 times now?
Yeah.
On July 28, 1913, the trial began at the Fulton County Superior Court. The wealthy Leo Frank had a legal team of 8 lawyers. He's bringing the fire.
8 lawyers?
8 lawyers in 1913.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Large crowds gathered inside the courtroom and outside to watch the trial. Keep in mind, we're still talking about a Jewish man, northerner from New York, basically, living in the Deep South.
He's not wanted.
So that's why there's large crowds gathered. Now, keep in mind, this man is accused of killing a young girl.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that's an evil mob out there. Like,
oh, yeah.
You know.
Right.
So whether he did it or not, these people were out here for blood. The defense team would claim the crowds were factors in witness and jury intimidation, which likely would be. You know, you don't want to be the guy that comes in like, nah, Leo didn't do it, and you got to walk out through this mob of people.
Oh, yeah. That'd be bad.
The prosecution based their whole case on an extremely racist stereotype that claimed there was no way a black man was smart enough to make up such a complicated story of what happened, let alone write 2 separate notes that were to implicate Newt Lee as the real killer. The defense argued that Jim Conley was the killer, and Newt Lee had helped him come up with the letters, and said that Fagan's missing purse was the evidence that Conley had actually robbed Mary Fagan before killing her. Conley then claimed that he saw Frank put the purse in a safe in his office, even though he'd never mentioned the purse before. So now that it's brought up at trial, he's like, oh yeah, he took it and put it in his office.
Yeah.
Prosecution claimed that Leo Frank was a ladies' man and had different women visit his office often for rendezvous. Jim Conley testified that he had seen Fagan go upstairs and then heard her scream, which led to the girl's death, in which he helped take the body to the basement. The defense then called a number of female workers from the factory who claimed to have never seen this happen and that Leo Frank was always well-mannered and proper. The trial was ugly, with each side accusing the other of witness intimidation and bribery. On August 25, 1913, after less than 4 hours of deliberation, the jury reached a unanimous guilty verdict convicting Frank of murder.
Wow.
They don't have anything on him.
No,
No.
not really. Other than him being nervous during the interrogation. The following day, on August 26, 1913, Leo Frank was sentenced to death by hanging in a private session in the judge's chamber. So they didn't even announce that in court. They had a private session with the lawyers where the judge says, look, we're going to put him to death. The execution was set for October 10th of 1913. The execution was postponed with an appeal, but on October 31st, Halloween, 1931, it was denied. So the next appeal was to the Georgia Supreme Court on December 15th, 1931. Meanwhile, on February 24th, 1914, Jim Conley was sentenced to a year in jail for being an accomplice after the fact in the murder of Mary Fagan.
A year?
Yeah. After 2 state appeal failures, Leo Frank's execution date was set for April 17th of 1914, but a federal appeal came instead of the execution. During the appeals, evidence was re-examined, and the hair found on a lathe was determined not to be Mary. You know, the evidence they found. And also the notes were found to have been written in the basement and not in Leo Frank's office like Conley had testified. How they figured that out, I don't know. It had something to do with the ashes and the dirt in the basement.
Interesting.
What kind of killer do we have here that just kills a girl and then sits down and writes a note?
Well, not only writes a note, but writes a note that was supposed to have been in her writing. It was supposed to have been her writing these notes. And I'm telling you, the notes were bad. It was like, tall black man, witch man, where he couldn't spell Watchmen.
Oh,
I mean, it was
wow.
It was terrible, and it was written in third person. So on April 19th of 1915, a federal appeal was denied, and Leo Frank was running out of time. On April 22nd, 1915, an application for commutation of Leo Frank's death sentence was submitted, but was rejected on June 9th. That was a long time to wait before you reject it.
Yeah.
Right.
Finally, on Monday, June 21st, 1915, Governor John Slayton ordered to commute Leo Frank's death sentence to life imprisonment, stating there was enough evidence now that wasn't available at the original trial that helped basically clear Leo. It also helped that the judge was good acquaintances with Leo's attorney. So they basically cut a deal.
Yeah.
A little shady, but I mean, we're really talking about an innocent man.
Yeah.
Right.
Governor Slayton also stated to reporters that he believed in his whole heart that Jim Conley was actually the killer, and if he put Leo Frank to death, the governor himself would be a murderer. He also said he would have gone with a full pardon, but didn't because he believed Leo Frank would be able to prove his own innocence soon enough.
He hasn't shown that he's guilty yet, other than being nervous.
Right. But I'm going to give you just a commutation of your sins. I'm not going to free you because I think you can prove your innocence.
Yeah. Wow.
But I mean, you got to give Governor Slayton some credit. He stopped him from being hung
Right.
Right.
for now. The public was pissed and threatened to attack the governor at his home. Keep in mind, we're dealing still about a child killer is what they think Leo Frank is.
Right.
A Jewish child killer at that in the Deep South.
Mm-hmm.
A mob that had gathered at his home was dispersed by police and members of the Georgia National Guard. The governor and his wife moved away from Georgia shortly after. They was like, we're done. See ya.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm no longer governor. My term's over.
I don't blame him.
You're not going to come to my house no more. See ya. Leo Frank, in the meantime, was transported to Milledgeville State Penitentiary in the middle of the night before the commutation was announced for his protection.
You should have
They're
sent him
like-
to federal prison.
They was like, hey, psst, everybody be quiet. We're going to take Leo out of the prison and move him somewhere else. Well, things began to stir in the public who really wanted to see Leo Frank die, and a writer named Tom Watson, you piece of trash, wrote an article basically calling for the lynching of Leo Frank, and that's not going to help the fact.
Right.
This dude writes an article that basically is like, oh, this guy deserves to die.
Wow.
On July 17th, a fellow inmate tried to kill Leo Frank, stating he wanted to keep the other prisoners safe from a mob coming into the prison for Frank. That's his excuse.
Wow.
A group of 28 men formed the Knights of Mary Fagan, who vowed to get justice for the poor girl. Now, the Knights of Mary Fagan sounds a little bit different than the Ku Klux Klan, but let's call a spade a spade.
That's basically what it is.
These men were well-known individuals in the community who consisted of locksmiths, mechanics, electricians, and even a preacher.
A preacher?
Yeah.
Interesting.
On August 16th, 1915, the Knights of Mary Fagan loaded into 8 cars and left Marietta, Georgia, which was Mary Fagan's hometown, and headed for the prison. They arrived at 10 p.m. An electrician cut the telephone lines while members of the group drained all the gas out of the prison's automobiles. They burst into the prison and handcuffed the warden and took Frank and drove him away. The path back to Marietta took 7 hours at a top speed of 18 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
That was through back roads and small towns.
Could you imagine, real quick, how scary that would be? You're just sitting there, and all of a sudden all these people bust in and grab you.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're on a 7-hour getaway.
And they're probably talking shit to you the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A site 2 miles east of Marietta had been prepared for the arrival with a rope and a table set up by former Sheriff William Frank. Upon arrival, Leo Frank was handcuffed, his legs tied at the ankles, and he was hung from a branch of a tree around 7 a.m. on August 17th, 1915.
Dang.
Now, they're taking pictures of themselves around this body. This is like an event. Like there was townspeople out there. They had their kids. This was like a celebration.
That's insane.
His body was dropped off at an undertaker's parlor in Atlanta, where a crowd of thousands demanded to see Frank's body until they were allowed to. So they're like, this is a spectacle. We want to go in and see him. And eventually they let him in to see him. Frank's body was then taken to Mount Carmel Cemetery in Glendale, Queens, New York, where he was buried on August 20th, 1915. The new governor, Nat Harris, who had replaced John Slayton, vowed to punish the mob and issued a $1,500 state reward for information. Nobody came forward with information. In fact, they were so proud of what they had done, postcards were made from the photos of the lynchings and sold in stores for 25 cents.
Wow.
You could actually see the pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, we looked at one of the postcards and they're standing around like it's a picnic. And
That's
this guy's
crazy.
hanging from a tree. The lynching of Leo Frank set off a huge debate of anti-Semitic in the area, and over half of the Jewish population that was in Georgia left.
Oh, hell yeah. Wouldn't you?
Yeah. I don't blame him.
Over the years, many researchers who have studied the case claim Frank was innocent, and an innocent man was put to death by a mob because he was merely a wealthy Jew. After a previous failed attempt, a posthumous pardon was granted in 1986 to Leo Frank. In 2008, a state historical marker was put up by the Jewish American Society for Historic Preservation near the area that Leo Frank was lynched. In 2015, the Georgia Historical Society, the Atlanta History Center, and the Jewish American Society for Historic Preservation dedicated a historical marker honoring Governor John Slayton at the Atlanta History Center.
Think about that. You're talking almost 100 or over 100 years later, or close to 100 years later, and they're still talking about this.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
In 2018, the Jewish American Society for Historic Preservation placed the first national anti-lynching memorial at the Georgia Department of Transportation designated Leo Frank Memorial Site. The marker reads, quote, "In respectful memory of the thousands across America denied justice by lynching, victims of hatred, prejudice, and ignorance. Between 1880 and 1946, about 570 Georgians were lynched."
Wow.
Dang.
And that is the tragic story of Leo Frank.
I have a question for you two.
Yes.
Who do you think actually did it?
Clearly Jim Conley.
Oh, for sure.
Do you think it was him?
Yeah,
you don't think
without
it
a
was,
doubt.
You don't think it was Newt?
No,
No.
I don't think Newt may have had a hand in helping get her where she was. But the problem is, I don't think Newt's going to kill her and then write notes that blames Newt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the bloody shirt is the mystery in all of this, but it was planted. By who, we don't know. I mean, they're saying this shirt was never worn. It could have been something that the investigators planted to try and push it over onto.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
I can see that.
Because keep in mind that this was an investigation also done by the Pinkertons, who Leo Frank had hired. They might have been like, look, get him out of it, whatever. But at the same time, I don't see I don't see Newt Lee being involved because the notes implicated him.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, when the cops read it, they had to read it out loud to him because he couldn't read or write. So when they read it out loud, he basically says, well, that black man's me. You know, I'm the watchman.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it was Newt Lee. I believe it was 100% Jim Conley.
Yeah, me too.
That's where I was going to.
Because, and also think about Conley changing his story 3
Right.
separate times.
Right.
Did we ever find out what happened to him after he got out?
No. But that would
No.
be a good thing to look up.
Yeah.
We'll look it up and put it on our Facebook.
There you go.
Wonder how far he made it in life.
I mean, he only got a year for
Right.
supposedly being an accomplice when he was actually more than
Probably the
likely
one
the
that did
killer.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think Leo Frank had anything to do with it.
No.
I don't think he had anything.
Nope. Me neither.
No, but here he is, and I don't want to talk about Slayton, but Slayton, commutes his sentence, but basically leaves him in there, and he's like, I'm out of here. I'm leaving
Right.
Georgia. Now, he did the right thing by commuting his sentence, I think, in my opinion,
Yeah.
but he probably should have pardoned him. But then again, how safe was he going to be in Georgia?
I mean, he could have left
After he-
Georgia
yeah,
and went back to New York.
He would have had to have.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, his whole life is right there in Georgia. I mean, he runs that company. That's his
Right.
money. He's in, he was a member of that Jewish fraternity,
Yeah.
but he would have had to have left everything behind and moved away. There's no way around it.
That's true.
You're not going to release him and him stay in Georgia because they're going to do exactly what they did anyway. They broke into a prison.
That's crazy that they
And
could
took
even
him
do
out.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then again, in my mind, and this is where my twisted mind goes, is I wonder how much of a fight the people at the prison put up
Right.
to keep the people from coming in and getting him. Was it one of those things like, oh no,
Yeah.
here they come?
But that's something today that you could never get away with.
Oh no,
You could never
No.
get into a prison today
no.
and take it over.
Well, if a mob of people with pitchforks and torches show up at a prison, there's a sniper tower up there.
Oh,
It's gonna
yeah.
mow them down.
Shot.
But yeah, that's where my mind goes. Like, how much of a fight did they really put up to keep these people from coming in and getting it?
right.
But it's tragic.
My thing is though, they didn't talk to this guy for 7 hours on the ride back. They didn't kind of feel bad about what they were about to do.
Oh no,
No.
they had their minds made up.
Right,
Again,
yeah.
he was just a Jew to them.
Right.
You're just
Yeah,
a
right.
Yankee Jew is what they looked at. Terrible.
Awful.
That is the story of Leo Frank, and I hope everybody enjoyed it.
I liked it.
Mhm.
What do you got?
Let's see here. Get onto our Facebook page. Give us a like. Any ideas, comments, you can email us at eviltransgression@gmail.com. Dustin, take it away.
Come check out our Patreon. You get early access now. If you didn't know that, now you do. So
Yeah.
just go to patreon.com/eviltransgression or go to Podbean and just click the become a patron button on Podbean.
The two simplest ways to do this
Yeah.
is to click the button on, if you listen on Podbean, click the button that says become a patron or has the little money bag reward.
Yep.
Or if you don't listen on Podbean, in the episode description, there is a thing that says our links. Click that, and right there you'll find our link for our Patreon.
And you can be just like Kiona.
You could,
Yes.
but you'll never be Kiki. Kiki is an artist too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I just thought of it because she had sent us a comment or a message at one time where she let us know that she's actually she paints. So I think Kiona needs to paint us an Evil Transgression
Ooh,
picture.
that'd be sweet.
That'd be awesome.
That would be cool.
While she's listening to one of our crazy episodes.
Yeah. Put her in the mood.
Yeah. All right, so everybody's good.
Yes.
We good.
Conscience is clear. Don't like it. Rex, take them home, buddy. We will say Until next week,
See ya.
See ya.
peace.